Speaker, as we always see, we never give Kenyans professionals an opportunity to serve. And I challenge all the people in government, the senior ones, when we get this kind of accomplished Kenyans and we give them responsibility, it is not us leaders who should be advising our advisors. We should let the people who are accomplished and competent do their work, instead of having a mentality that we can do everything as leaders because we occupy big positions. We give these kind of Kenyans an opportunity so that they serve our nation, because they also mean well, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and I hope we can always do this as a country, that as we said Kenyans to represent us in various missions, Honorable Speaker, their target should be very clear. And our target currently, what we need as a country, is in terms of increasing our trade volumes and also our trade worth in terms of the amount that we earn. And Honorable Speaker, it is now time that even as we said these Kenyans in terms of foreign policy and in terms of all the other things they do, they must have a target in terms of looking for the markets of the Kenyan commodities, so that any person working for Kenya in any of the missions abroad, one of the missions and one of the targets they must have is the amount of trade you actually fetch for our country, Honorable Speaker. Secondly, is in terms of marketing our country. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the tourism now.
Ndindi, Nyoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And as I rise to almost congratulate Mr. Humphrey Watanga, I also want to make some brief comments, Honorable Speaker, and especially in terms of foreign policy. But before that, Honorable Speaker, you allow me to send my most sincere condolences to the families who have been affected by the tragic fire at the Utumishi Girls Academy. Honorable Speaker, this is an incident that have shaken our nation, and we stand in solidarity with all the affected families at this very unfortunate and very difficult moment. And even we said our quick recovery message to all the learners who are currently hospitalized in various areas, and we are together with them in our thoughts and prayers. Honorable Speaker, I also want to welcome all the learners who are here today, and I want to commend them for finding time to come and see how we do our business here in Parliament, and also wish them all the best in their aspirations, because I'm sure majority of them would want to be occupying these positions. We wish them all the best as you go through school. Know that you have a blank sheet of paper currently. You can write anything basically you'd want to become. And because you are all the ages on your side, you can actually become anything that you aspire to be. Start early while you're in school, lead clubs, lead various areas in school. Hone your abilities there so that you continue developing yourself. Honorable Speaker, as I go to the agenda of the day, it is important, Honorable Speaker, that we give a lot of weight and consideration to the foreign policy of our country. Honorable Speaker, the countries and state self-interest is embedded on the policy that we have, that is foreign policy. Currently, Kenya, as it stands, Honorable Speaker, as a developing country, our role should basically be about trade, investments, and production. Because, Honorable Speaker, whatever we do that safeguards our national interests, it should always have fruits to the Kenyan people. And the fruits majorly, and on the economic sphere of it, can only come if we truly embed whatever we do in terms of our internal policies and our foreign policy into ways and channels that spur investments, that spurs production, and that enlarges and grows our economy. And Honorable Speaker, as we say so, because we are clear-minded at where our country is now, looking at the data between what we do between Kenya and Canada, it is evident, Honorable Speaker, that our trade between Kenya and Canada is almost equal, but it's also marginal when we look at the comparative nature of what we do with other economies. Because we are talking at around only 20 billion Kenya shillings, Honorable Speaker, in terms of trade. But more importantly is about what do we actually trade with Canada. Looking deeper, you realize that Kenya, whatever we take to Canada in terms of exports out of our country, is majorly coffee, tea, and apparels. But majorly, Honorable Speaker, what we export to Canada is what would pass in terms of the calculation of GDP using the production formula as primary production. Whatever we take to Canada, Honorable Speaker, is majorly in raw form, in primary form. Honorable Speaker, again, looking at what we get out of Canada, you see that machinery and especially around aircrafts is one of our imports. The point I'm trying to make is this, Honorable Speaker, that looking at Canada itself, how it grew, because it's way ahead of us in terms of GDP per capita, and the other countries that have grown, Honorable Speaker, it's very difficult for a country and thrive on the basis of primary production. And therefore it is important, as we debate about foreign policy and the officers we are seconding to those foreign missions, Honorable Speaker, that we all retrospect that we also need to make our economy a bit more complex. Primary production alone, Honorable Speaker, is good, and I'm not talking about substituting, but I'm talking about increasing some level of complexity, so that as we trade using the primary production goods, Honorable Speaker, we also continue to make our economy grow to other more productive areas. Honorable Speaker, in terms of production, the more you embed technology, the more productive you become, and the more you produce high-quality commodities, products, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, it is important, even as we look at these kind of scenarios, we look at areas of adding value to whatever we trade with Canada, but even going further by making some decisions that will make our economy much more complex, produce much more complex commodities, much more embedded with much more technology, so that, Honorable Speaker, we can earn much more. Because, Honorable Speaker, if you measure in volumes, the volume we export and the volume we import, whereas the barriers of payment is almost close to the same, you realize in terms of volumes, whatever we import is quite small in volume, because it's technology intensive, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, therefore, having said that, we also have to look at what do we need currently, even as we talk about that medium and long term that I've talked about. That our country now can, even as we try to make our economy complex, we can also do something in increasing the exact products that we actually trade with Canada. And Honorable Speaker, we look at our current situation. What are we selling more to the world? Number one, of course, being coffee and tea and floriculture, but also, Honorable Speaker, in terms of service, that is tourism. And Honorable Speaker, and I hope we can always do this as a country, that as we said Kenyans to represent us in various missions, Honorable Speaker, their target should be very clear. And our target currently, what we need as a country, is in terms of increasing our trade volumes and also our trade worth in terms of the amount that we earn. And Honorable Speaker, it is now time that even as we said these Kenyans in terms of foreign policy and in terms of all the other things they do, they must have a target in terms of looking for the markets of the Kenyan commodities. So that any person working for Kenya in any of the missions abroad, one of the missions and one of the targets they must have is the amount of trade you actually fetch for our country, Honorable Speaker. Secondly, is in terms of marketing our country. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the tourism numbers, Kenya is still too low despite whatever measures that you have done. And there are cases that have shown that, Honorable Speaker, if we get the right people to market our country, we can earn much more when it comes to tourism numbers, Honorable Speaker. Even the marginal increase we have had, Honorable Speaker, we can do more. If you look at a country like Albania, Honorable Speaker, in the last decade, this is a country that previously was attracting just around 1 million visitors, Honorable Speaker. Between 1 and 2 million visitors. And out of deliberate policies to grow tourism, Albania was able to grow their tourism numbers, Honorable Speaker, in a span of a very short time to over 14 million visitors, Honorable Speaker. And we are talking about a country that is quite small compared to Kenya and that is not as endowed like Kenya when it comes to tourism capabilities and what we can sell. And therefore, there is a lot of things that we can do using the capacity that we have as the country, and especially marketing Kenya as the right place. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, is about diaspora management. Currently, as we know, whatever we get mostly in Kenya is remittances. But we must never confuse remittances and FDI, because we must do both. Whereas remittances is consumerism driven, FDI is investment intensive. It is way in its time, Honorable Speaker, that we must also be creative on how we can make our remittances become more of FDI for investments other than tokens only for consumption that we set back at home. As I go to the conclusion, Honorable Speaker, I have seen a very robust CV of Mr. Watanga. And Honorable Speaker, we know he was an officer in KRA. And that begs the question, Honorable Speaker. We have seen a lot of turnover at KRA.
We adding you 1 minute.
Honorable Speaker, I was just trying to say that Mr. Watanga is an accomplished officer. And we clearly see that, as we know, he was removed from KRA. And it's clear, Honorable Speaker, as we always see, we never give Kenyans, professionals, an opportunity to serve. And I challenge all the people in government, the senior ones, when we get this kind of accomplished Kenyans and we give them responsibility, it is not us leaders who should be advising our advisors. We should let the people who are accomplished and competent do their work, instead of having a mentality that we can do everything as leaders because we occupy big positions. We give these kind of Kenyans an opportunity so that they serve our nation, because they also mean well, Honorable Speaker.